Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and I want to show you how you can easily install the brand new Active Autowerke valved axle-back exhaust into your BMW G20 3 Series. All right, guys, so let's walk through this project really quick before we get started. Now, I actually have access to a lift today, so hey, if I've got the tool, I'm gonna use it. Makes it a lot easier. But don't let this dissuade you from doing this yourself. Now, normally I do almost all of my work in my home garage. You can do that work with a jack and jack stands. You can use it with quickjacks, which I highly recommend, by the way. But I'm always gonna say this anytime we have any project where we get the car up in the air. You have to be careful, okay? So if you're doing this at home and you have a jack, make sure you're using jack stands. Don't bet your life on a 50-cent part, which can and will fail without warning. I've seen jacks fail. Your car can come down suddenly. I mean, that can be damaging to your car, but as you can imagine, if you're underneath it, that's a really, really bad scenario, okay? So don't do it. Make sure you're using jack or jack stands at a bare minimum. But don't be dissuaded by the fact we're using a lift today. It actually gives us a little bit better angle and makes the job go a little bit quicker, so I can show you how to get it done. Last reminder, don't forget all the links for products, tools, torque values, everything you need will be in the description below, so you can always check that out. But my goal is to walk you through and show how you can install this really awesome product on your G20 as well, and the difference that's going to make. All right, so let's get started. All right, guys, so here we are underneath the car really quick. I wanted to give you a view of what this looks like. We're gonna walk through how to measure and cut all of this. I'm also gonna show you the exhaust all laid out in the correct orientation, so it makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to describe one complication that you potentially have depending on what year of car that you have. So if you have a 2019 or early 2020, what you're going to have is you're going to have an 80 millimeter pipe here on the passenger side. This is passenger side, that's driver's side. This is going to be an 80 millimeter pipe, where if you are from the middle or so of 2020 into 2021, you're going to have a 75 millimeter pipe. And that's going to change what the connector looks like, the clamp looks like that you're going to use. So I'm going to go over and I'll show you here in a second of what the differences are when we look at this and why it makes sense. But I wanted to give you a view before we do this. So we have here the passenger side, we've got our exhaust valve flap, we got everything all set up okay. But let me show you what the exhaust looks like laid out as well. All right, guys, so here's the exhaust all laid out in the correct orientation. So passenger side, driver's side. I like to lay it out if you have space to make sure that everything is in the correct orientation. You have all the clamps in the right places and you understand which way it's going to go in. Now, in this case, what you have with here on the pipe is that they've compensated for whether you have an 80 or 75 millimeter passenger side pipe. This is flanged out to the 80, but if you have a 75, obviously that's going to be too big for the existing pipe. So you want to make sure and go ahead and check. Now in this case, we've measured the pipe. This is a later model 2020. So it has the 75 millimeter pipe that comes up here. And so instead of a clamp that looks like these, which are uniform on both sides, when simply just slip on butt clamps on both sides, this is actually a conversion clamp. So you can tell it's a little bit different material. It's going to cinch down on one side, so it'll be 80 on this side and 75 on this side, which is why we've got this odd shaped one right here that looks a little bit different. The matching one will go on that side. The odd shaped or a little bit different looking clamp, if you have a 75 millimeter pipe, that's what you'll need to do. So this is how it's all laid out. We're going to get underneath. I'm going to show you how to measure and to get the correct lines to make the right cuts. All right, guys, so we are looking at the passenger side of the car. You'll use the weld from the box side to the motor side as your reference. As you can see, we are 6 inches from the weld. So go ahead and measure out and measure this multiple times. Make sure that you have the exact right measurement, and we're going to cut on the engine side of the mark. Now, the hose clamp trick is really great. I've talked about this before. You can go ahead and lay lay in your hose clamp so it wraps around and you make a clean line all the way around. So once you measure your 6 inches and you make a mark, go ahead and wrap a hose clamp around the pipe and then mark cleanly all the way around. All right, I'll show you the driver's side next. All right, y'all, so we've laid the tape around the bend, as you can see. So what this is this is 11¼ inches. Now, the way we have the tape lined up right now is to make sure that we can actually see it clearly. But this is an 11½ inches from the weld. So you're gonna wanna come from the weld around the bend to 11¼ inches. And again, mark very, very clearly. Use a hose clamp to circle all the way around. But you're 11¼ inches from the weld, and this is the driver's side, so go ahead and get that marked and then cut the pipe. All right, guys, so here's our cut here on the passenger side. As you can see, cleanly marked. So marked all the way around with the hose clamp and then slid the hose clamp back out of the way. When you cut, you can use a short metal blade on a sawzall, for example, to cut through this. Just make sure you're really clean when you cut through, that you follow your lines. Don't come out the other side and hit your car. I find on these exhaust pipes that sometimes it depends on which angle you come from, but in this case, on this passenger side, coming from the center and working your way out appears to be the right way to go. I'm also going to cut on the engine side right here. So let's cut through this and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. All right, guys, so as you can see, all cut. It's all the way through, nice clean cut, and even with our lines all the way through. So that's going to make the mounting even easier. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other side next. All right, so now that both pipes are cut, you're going to want to go ahead and unplug your valve motor right here. So it's just one of those little press clips where you just press on and pull it out. Make sure that that's safely aside. Then you've got a whole series of hangers. And let me look up here. I'm on the passenger side. You can see it's 13mm. It's going to be here. There's going to be another one over on this side as well. You've got another one in the mid body right here, over here. So you're going to want to go through and pull all these hangers. Now, when you pull them, keep in mind that your exhaust is about to get heavy. Now, what I normally do is when I'm on my quickjacks, I'm on my rolly cart, and I will just slowly lower this down by undoing it. And usually I'll just drop the exhaust on myself and then roll out from underneath the car. If you have an extra set of hands, you can always have somebody standing here on the outside and hold your exhaust by the tips as you pull it free, and then have them help you walk it out. But all in all, not hard. So go ahead and drop your back box now by pulling your 13mm all the way around, and we'll get this off. All right, guys, so let's do a quick comparison here so you can see the back boxes side by side. So quite a bit of difference between the two, as you can tell, both in size and in weight. But this is the point where you're going to want to start transferring components off your existing. Now, you can have a specialized tool that helps pull these hangers off. I've also found that if you don't have that, and that's okay, that you can just work these hangers back off this post, just slowly work them outwards. I've even used a little bit of WD-40 to help get them off. But what I will do is I will lay the existing right next to it so I know the orientation. So I transfer that hanger to here. I can put it in right in the correct orientation, and it makes complete sense when it goes on. Okay, so go ahead and get both hangers transferred, and we're going to talk about transferring the flap valve motor here in just a moment. All right, so now that we've got the hangers transferred, all three at either end and the one from the mid pipe, we're going to want to transfer your actuator motor. And like I said, this is easy to do, and I'm going to stress it again. You have to make sure that your valve motor is in a closed position, because we're going to be doing the same thing on the valve on the new one. But you've got 3 10mm, 1, 2, 3 to take this off, and then we're going to walk over and transfer it to the new one. And I'll really walk through that in great detail to make sure that this goes on properly. All right, guys, so let's talk through this here. So this is obviously the new exhaust, and this will be the passenger side. You've got 3 10mm bolts, 1, 2, 3 that I've already taken out. Obviously, here's my motor that's still sitting off to the side. Now I'm going to pull it out of place because I really want to show this in great detail. So Active provides a new spring clip that's going to attach the motor to the valve itself, or the valve flap. Now, the spring clip has to go in one orientation. The valve flap has to be in one orientation. It's very, very important. Now, when you turn this, it really can only be in the correct orientation in one way. It doesn't free circle all the way around. It only opens and closes in one direction. So as you look at this, and you'll see this orientation, I'm going to zoom in and get very close to this. Active also includes a little 3 or 4 page instruction guide with some really high-res pictures of the correct orientation in this. But the gap here on this inside gearing that sits in a U shape like this inner bar of the loop is going to go to the inside, not the outside, but the inside. And then this is the bar that's going to tie into the actuator of the motor. So when you first put this in, it really doesn't matter the position of the flap itself because you're going to turn it and move it around a little bit. Just press that clip down into place. Okay, so now that the clip is actually in place, and I'm gonna move my camera so you get a good clear view of this. Again, that inner loop is in, and you can see the arms right here in the hole. You can see the top corner of this little flange right here at the top. And the nice thing about the picture that they include is that you can make sure you're exactly in the right orientation. So let me freehand my camera for a second so you get a better, closer look. But you can also start to see how this is going to line up. You can see you have a matching groove right there. And as you just kind of lower it down into place, you can see where it's going to fit over that armature and should be just fine. It's already almost in place. Now, the one other thing is the OEM has this tray on it. I always take that tray off because it'll get in the way of these bolts here underneath, where there's texture on the bottom of the motor and the bolts don't hit anything, but they will hit things if the tray's in the way. So let me move my camera for a second so you can see the right orientation of this clip. This is very important. It's easy, but very critical. All right, guys, so let's take a very close look at this. So you can see you've got this upper loop right here in the notch of the mounting frame. You can see the bar right here. So you can start to set and take the motor and set it down into place. So go ahead and set the motor in, and then you're gonna wanna look through the bottom side right here to make sure that the armature is fit into this tooth gear right here. So let me get fitted into place and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. All right, y'all, as we look down the pipe here and we look onto the inside, you can see how the armature is now secure and in the correct position on the back of the motor. It's mounted strongly here onto the flap itself, and then the pressure of it squeezing in together will hold it in place in both occasions. What I've also done from time to time is I've just make sure and I grab the edge of this and I press down to make sure it's firmly in place. I'll do the same thing on this side because I've had these motors be really tight a couple of times, and this bar only kind of halfway in, so make sure it's all the way in. But the fact that this is all lined up with the motor means you're in the right position and you won't have to worry about potentially burning this motor out. I've done that before. I had a motor that was like essentially in a closed position, and I had the flap in an open position, and I tried to make it work and it didn't turn out well and I burned out my motor. So don't do that. But in this case, it's all done and you're good to go. All right, so the next thing we're gonna wanna do is we get prepared to hang the back box up now that we've got the motor transferred and the hangers transferred here on both sides, is go ahead and take, this is the driver's side. It has this bracket that it connects to help hold it into place. Now this bracket here is still loose, but this will help hold it into place, and I've just kind of hand tightened these bolts in. Now you can potentially walk this back to the car now and hang it off both of these hangers so we can get that set. So I'm gonna go ahead and move it up there. Go ahead and use those 13s again through both these hangers on both sides. Hang your back box in place, and then we're gonna start working those mid pipes back into place. All right, y'all, so as you can see, it's all hung up now, which is great, but everything is still loose. So when you look at all the clamps, you can see they'll still move, and especially these mid-body clamps. Now what you're gonna wanna do is slide the clamp onto the pipe, just hold the pipe up into place, and then slide the clamp over so it's even between the two pipes. And you can do that at both ends, which holds us in place, but as you can see, everything is still loose, which is okay. My clamps are not in their final orientation yet as well. But this will give you a chance to start tightening things down. It'll also hold it all into place while you do it. So as you look at this, and I'll have the right size on these bolts in a moment. They're usually 15s, but I'll have that in just a second. But if you start to tighten these down, and this one you can tighten down almost completely because of this bracket right here is going to hold this in place. But you want to tighten these to the point where these pipes will start to hold in place and not twist on their own like they will right now, but enough that you can turn them and they'll stay because the clamps are tight enough that they'll start to stay. Because this is where you start working on all of your fitment. You want to make sure that your end pipes are level, that all of your mid-body pipes, or the mid-pipes are in the correct location. As you can see, this one's sagging. So we'll fix all of this as we go through, but this is where it becomes a little bit more of an art than a science, as you just get all of this to align correctly. So tighten these down, and then we will get this all set up. All right, so the last important step as we finish up alignment is go ahead and start to put your exhaust tips on. Make sure the clamp is at the bottom, the active logo at the top, and because it's on the lift right now, it's a little hard to see, but make sure that the logo is set, and go ahead and put them all the way across for all four, because what you're gonna wanna do is make sure you've got proper clearance on your diffuser and proper alignment within, and then with all of your clamps tight, you can make small adjustments if need be, where we can pull on it and adjust a little bit and then tighten the clamp all the way down. But make sure all of your clamps are tight, walk through absolutely everything. Now, the one last thing I want to show though, of course, is plugging in your exhaust valve controller, which is right over there. So we're gonna do that in just a moment. But just go through, get your alignment set up properly, and then tighten down all of your clamps, and then we'll get the controller plugged in. All right, so one of the last things you don't want to forget is if you look at your OEM cable here, it doesn't reach. So you have a simple extension here that you want to plug in. So go ahead and plug it into the motor here up above, and then you can use zip ties to get it up and nice and cleanly zipped up and away so it doesn't touch against any of your exhaust. You wouldn't want this up against your exhaust. So make sure to get that taken care of. Go ahead and get this all plugged in, and you're pretty much done. All right, guys, so a couple of quick sound samples there, and you know, it's only going to be as good as the microphone on my camera, which is not all that great, right, by comparison. But you know, me and everybody else in the shop here today was just like, yeah, that sounds so much better. I mean, this is something you definitely want to do on your G20, and thank you to Active Autowerke for making such a fantastic product. This install was really simple, really easy, as you can tell, and everything you need will be listed in the description below, so make sure to check that out, because this is something you should definitely consider doing on your G20. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and I have a ton of content coming for the rest of the year, and I can't wait to bring it to you. Thank you so much. I'll see you on my next project.